I guess there's just gonna be a lot of that.
There's something I didn't want to know. Engine oil? Not faring much better. Something's on fire. This is why we always keep fire aid on hand, because it aids the fire. Obviously, billowing blow-by smoke and pouring oil everywhere is not good. Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and this is my 1970 Dodge Dart Swinger. If you saw the first video on this car, then you saw me drag it out of a yard where it had been for something like 20 years, covered in blackberries and slowly returning to the earth. As I do in every video, I went to extreme lengths to show the good, the bad, and the ugly on this project. That led some people to think it's a total scrap heap, but I assure you that is not quite the case. Maybe we'll frame this. Something to remember it by, you know? I got the Swinger from a gentleman named Noah. He built this car, and at some point, it went through a flood. Yes, I noticed the irony in that. I don't currently have any plans to name it the Ark, but maybe I should. In case you missed the details, I'll give you a quick rundown. This is an original 318 automatic Dart Swinger. It does currently have a built 360 under the hood, which was very seized when I got it, but currently isn't. We'll get back to that in a minute. It's got some body damage and some rust, but it's in pretty decent shape. It has front disc brakes. It has an 8 3/4 rear axle with a 323 sheer grip chunk. It has a rebuilt 904 that's only slightly full of water. It has sway bars front and rear. It has heavy-duty performance springs. It's got a lot of good parts. I, for one, enjoy and appreciate the well-baked B5 blue exterior. I don't like this so much. In the first video, I showed some pictures of my original 1970 Dart Swinger that I had in my early 20s. It was semi-flat black with a white bumblebee stripe. A good few of you said that I should paint this one like that one, and well, yeah, that was kind of the entire idea. But I do like the blue and primer and rust look, and it'll definitely be like that for a time. An important part of the first video was emptying the trunk and the interior of like 100+ pounds of garbage. Also nasty old carpet and various things like that. Many of you said, ugh, that has to smell terrible. Not really. Trust me, I know terrible smells. By comparison, this thing is 100% factory mint. It's basically daily driver ready, as long as you keep your feet out of the hole anyway. Hood's disintegrating. I do have a spare. At the end of the last video, against all odds, I got this 360 under the hood turning. I never expected that. This was not supposed to be some kind of revival project. But now I think it could be, and I'm pretty excited. A teardown of this 360 LA small block engine is almost certainly in my future. It'll probably be the subject of one of those Engine Wednesday videos I produce every week. But I see zero possible harm in trying to get this thing running as it is now. A lot of people want to see me build a fresh engine for this thing with some horse ponies, and I'm definitely into that idea. But I do already have a fantastic budget-built Performance 360 LA engine right here under the hood of Dale's Demon, and it's not going to be here forever. So that's an option too. This is already here, and the crankshaft turned, and none of the valves seem to be stuck. I think there's a chance that this could be a runner. Probably not a good runner, but possibly a runner. And today we're going to try and find that out. This car has been sitting on the lift since the end of the last video a couple weeks ago, and I really need it out of the way. But before I push it out of the way, I want to see if there's the outside possibility we can drive it out of the way. At the end of the last video, I did explain the next couple things that need to happen before attempting to crank this thing over. A big one is the starter. Now, typically that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but when you install the crappiest A-body headers available, suddenly it becomes a bit of a chore. The old starter you can hardly see up there is, of course, the factory-style gear reduction starter. This is the big heavy unit, legendary for producing the lovely and or terrible sound these cars are known to have when cranking. They were used on everything from a Slant 6 to a 426 Hemi. It's huge, and there's pretty much no way it's going to come out around this starter. I said starter, I meant header. There's no way that starter is coming out around this header. I'm probably going to have to loosen this thing and pull it off of the engine, which sucks. Before I do that, I am going to check a couple things. First off, as you can see, there's a good bit of corrosion in the battery cable. Maybe there wasn't actually power getting down to the large stud on this starter. I was definitely getting zaps when I bridged the connection up on the relay. That tells me that there is power getting down to the small wire, but I never heard the motor spin at all. It's possible there's just no juice to that big lug. Corroded battery cables leading to issues like this, not at all an unheard of issue. It's not something I see very often, but remember this car went through a flood, so if I were gonna see it anywhere, this would kind of be the place. I've got my power probe. It's connected to the battery up above me. Sneaking it into this stud is gonna be tricky. Okay, well, Right there on the stud, I don't know if you can see the power probe screen. No, you totally can't. But it's reading 13 something volts. So we are indeed getting power down to the starter. It's just dead. Checking the ground is a fine idea too. Of course, it is grounded. It wouldn't be zapping up at the relay when I try to trigger the thing if it wasn't. While it's hovering up in the air, I did decide to turn the engine over again. I've done this another time since breaking it free. This time, 2 weeks later, well, it was a little tight in one spot again, but I got it to go. Pretty sure what that means is the area that's rusty on that cylinder wall is just rusting again. We need to get fluids running through this thing. We need to get it fired up and running and happy, like soon. Many different commenters pointed out the fact that because this thing was up to its eyeballs in water, nothing below the water was likely rusting to bits. Now that I've drained the water, it's absolutely possible that some of those surfaces are doing that. There are a lot of things you can do, but I couldn't be bothered. I should hope we all understand that even if this thing does run, it's living on borrowed time. That doesn't make it any less fun though. So anyway, I started unbolting. Rather annoyingly, they did actually install header bolts in the end positions instead of keeping factory studs. There's coolant back there, and although this thing is low, it can't be that low because I've got green stuff dripping out from behind this bolt already. When I said bolts, I guess I meant bolt, because the rear one's just not there at all. Must have a stud broken off in that hole. So now I just have to get the difficult ones, the ones in these corners. Yeah, this one's already trying to strip. Yay! Got that one. It involved multiple 3/8 wrenches, a hammer, a chisel, a bunch of magic spray, and a torch. This back one wiggled right away, but you see they end up jammed into the sides of the tube there. This one's all packed in with gunk and nastiness, and it's super hard to get a wrench to anyway because someone put a number 3 primary tube in the way. Yay! It's a while later, and we're here. Getting here was certainly not fun or simple. There are 2 bolts that hold this thing onto the bell housing of the transmission. Actually, it's a bolt on top and then a nut on a stud down at the bottom. The nut came loose immediately, like it was never tight, but once it was about halfway off, it did just back the stud out of the bell housing. Strangely, all of the hardware has just been coming right apart. Unbolting the starter was the first half of the battle, and it wasn't easy with this still connected in the header here. But once I got this off, I was able to slide the header forward, and that allowed the starter to clunk down out of the hole and then angle out this way. Once it was in this position, undoing the wiring was pretty simple. So now I need a starter that actually works. I don't know that any of the ones I have in stock meet that description. I've got like 5 random unknown cores right here and a couple more in the shop that I know aren't any good. My last actually kind of good one went back on the Turbo Valiant, so I guess I have to go buy one. For fun and profit, I did try to beat this one into submission some more, but it says no. Somewhere in an alternate universe, there's a version of me desperate enough to try and fix things like this. I hope to never have to meet him. I've returned from a parts run, and I have a funny story. Well, I don't know if it's funny. Anyway, earlier today, I sold like all of my spare Slant 6 stuff. I have enough left to turbo 1 Valiant and to finish this 63 Dart GT, and that's it. 3 entire engines, spare heads, spare everything. Gone. The sum total for all these parts, $300. Guess how much I just spent at the parts store on a starter, some fluids, a couple shop supplies, and 1 battery. Here's the new later mini starter going in. At least a few people will be disappointed that I replaced the old school big heavy gnarly sounding unit with this, but the simple fact is they're better and they're smaller and lighter, and you can actually buy one in a store. The old school style, not so much anymore. Generally, when you go to buy one of those, they're just gonna give you one of these because it drops right in place and it's pretty much better in every way. The wiring is a little bit different. I did leave the extension on here. That may prove to be a mistake. You could take this plastic piece off and move the wires directly to the starter body over here. If you're putting one of these on a big block, you pretty much have to do that because this will run into the block. Got it up there. Really wasn't any easier than getting the big one down. I think I've got to pull it back down and flip these wires because currently they're like wrapped around a header. The nicest, shiniest part on this entire car is now bolted to this greasy transmission that's still kind of full of water. It's connected up there with a relatively terrible looking battery cable that I don't think is going to short out on the block. If I did create a horrible short, we're going to find out right now. Oh, we're good. Obviously the header's still loose. I've decided it's probably not worth reinstalling that until we know it's worth reinstalling. So let's try and turn this thing over. Party. Oh, no. Party. There we go. Wow. Okay. Gross. We've definitely got valves moving, creating compression here. You can watch the spark plug holes as they spit stuff out every second rotation. Nice. I can see a good bit of scunge on that piston. Some of it has come out. Disgusting. I'm not going to crank it over any more than this until I get some oil in it and prime the thing. Dude, with some light hammer action, I got the carburetor throttles to start moving again. This thing's just straight coming back. I do have to tell you, it's not all roses and puppy dog kisses here. I've been smelling the distinct and unmistakable aroma of blown head gasket ever since taking this header bolt out. If you've ever smelled this, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like, I don't know, the inside of a tire. It's a weird and very specific smell. The header's bolted back on. Of course, it's easier when you only have to do 5 out of 6 bolts. That's kind of nice. Remember, you have to start with these ones on the inside corners of the front and rear pipes on these small block headers. You'll never be able to get those in if the other ones are already tight. Next, I'm going to get some fresh oil in this thing. Now, I know for a fact there's still a little bit of residual water down in the bottom of the pan, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. The oil that goes in here is going to be kind of sacrificial. For that reason, I got the cheapest engine oil known to man. This is Mag 1 1030 conventional. It's not a high zinc oil at all. It's going to be fine. I'm pretty sure. I got a fresh filter too. Also the cheapest thing known to man. It'll be replacing a short Wix filter. That is, if I can get it off. Now the thing is, the water was all down in the sump. It probably never reached our filter here, and the filter would probably be okay, but it looks disgusting and kind of rusty anyway, so I would like to get that off of there. Once the oil is in there, we need to prime the engine, and to do that, I'll have to remove the distributor and the distributor drive shaft. I'm going to mark the location right now. I'm going to take a picture of this, and we'll make sure the shaft and the distributor end up dropped in right where they were. I'm certainly going to do my best to keep these big chunks out of the engine. Distributor's out. Now I'm getting the oil pump drive or intermediate shaft. Now I've shown these in the past that will not come out due to carbon buildup. I just had this one up and out of there, but then I turned the camera on. That's just how it goes. Anyway, because this engine's been rebuilt, we do not have that problem here. Yeah, okay. There we go. Yeah, nice. Wow, it's even the high performance pinned one. Definitely a little on the sludgy and gross side. You can see some water toward the tip there. Just about to take this thing back up in the air to try and get the filter off. I randomly decided to check the brake fluid. I can't help but notice that it has some. Have I hit the pedal in this thing yet? Oh. Well, okay. Well, the rear brakes are empty. The front brakes are not empty. I don't know that they actually work, but it does something down there. Very likely all that fluid left through a rear wheel cylinder. They're probably both shot, but I'm always down to roll the dice. So I put some fluid in there and I'll just pump the pedal and see if it does stuff. So far, no stuff. Eventually there might be some stuff though. It would be so fun to drive this car around with open headers. It's doing something. Bleeding the brakes the old-fashioned way. Yeah, fluid's going places and air is coming out. It's bringing some horrible grunge with it. This is gonna be brakes. I think we all know it's not going to be good brakes, but it is going to be brakes. Really wanted to hook the exhaust back up. I'm still going to, but I'm not going to have a gasket. I swear I should have one of these, but I can't find it. That one did leak. They always leak. Decided to pull the oil drain plug again, just in case. That was a good idea. There is actually a little bit of, I want to say oil coming out of there. Kind of just sludge, though. Remember that time I hit the brake pedal? That was not a good idea. Freed up the calipers with a hammer. That's gonna be a recurring issue. Anyway, the whole reason I put this thing in the air was to get that filter out. It doesn't want to turn. I think I could get it off with some various means of destruction, but I've realized the way that adapter's pointed, the long filter's gonna hit the torsion bar, and I don't have a short filter, so I think I'm just gonna leave it on there. See this kind of surface rusty, patchy stuff inside the block through the distributor hole here? I'll bet you good money that's what the entire inside of this engine looks like. Anyway, I'm full sending 5 quarts of oil down the distributor hole here. Because I didn't remove the filter, this might actually be slightly overfilling it, but I'm not going to worry about that. This is kind of neat. I can just get a glimpse of the camshaft there. It's still totally oily. I've got the thing in there, and I'm going to put the drill on the thing and spin the thing, and hopefully we get some pressure. This, of course, is the same thing we do for a new engine. People often tell me to do this to engines that have been sitting forever, and I almost never do. This one, we know it needs it. Note the length of this shaft is absolutely perfect to pre-lube an engine in an A-body. Isn't that interesting? That was fast. Okay. We're definitely circulating some oil here. Now, the one thing this is not doing is getting oil up to the top end. I could rotate the engine to try and line up the holes that lubricate the top end, but that would mess up my marked distributor location, and I really just want to put that right back where it was. See what our oil level looks like now. Oh, half a quart over full, and well, fairly clean. Obviously, at this point, I need to reinstall the ignition system after verifying it's even going to work. Put some fresh plugs in here, crank this thing over, see what the compression sounds like, and then we'll see about putting some fuel in there and making actual fire. However, I'm totally out of time for this tonight. I need to go eat some pizza and then record an album or something. So we'll get back to this, I guess, tomorrow. Oh dear. It's the next day. I've just pulled the priming tool out of priming this thing again just to make sure. The oil on it is creamy and terrible. I'm going to pull the dipstick and see if it's the same. Actually, the stuff on the dipstick still looks beautiful and clean. Barely see anything in there. There's the pump/distributor drive drop back in, and I clocked it the same way as it was when I took it out. Before dropping the distributor back in, I want to do a couple checks. The first is to find out if our orange box over here is any good. I've currently got the key on. I've got the coil wire sitting right next to a header tube, and now I'm going to connect battery negative. When I connect this and then disconnect it, we should get a test spark. Connected? Oops. Connected better. Look how strong that spark is. Thanks, Excel Superstock Coil. The next thing I'm going to do is connect this distributor and spin it. And if we get a whole bunch of sparks over here, we're going to be good to just drop this thing back in. Still want to find a better rotor if I can. This is a great way to test your Mopar electronic distributor. You just spin it by hand out of the engine with the key on and with it connected to the box. It does not have to be grounded to signal the box. Well, you can hear that. Nice. That is a good distributor. So we'll drop it back in and everything will be great. This is also a good way to try and narrow down if you have a distributor or ignition box issue. Usually I just use the test spark method, but you can grab a known good distributor and plug it into the box on your car. With the key on, you spin it. If you're getting sparks there, but not when the engine turns, you probably have a distributor problem. Getting the old rotor off is proving challenging. Snap the tip off of one of my favorite snap-on screwdrivers. Hey, how bad was I supposed to bend the shaft under the rotor in this thing? Anyway, I fixed it, mostly. Still works, that's the good news. Kind of cleaned it. The vacuum advance works, which I almost can't believe. Before anyone says, 70 Dart's not supposed to have electronic ignition, it's a kit. Probably the direct connection kit. You see a lot of those. Distributor is back where it was, as near as I can tell by my reference photos anyway, and it is plugged in. That is an essential step. Let's see if we've got spark when the engine turns over. Oh yeah, we do. At this point, I'd like to put some spark plugs in this thing and see how it sounds cranking over with actual compression. For this, typically I would go to my pile of old Champion plugs. Unfortunately, I've used all of those. Thankfully, I did not have to go to the store and buy any because a gentleman named Russell sent me an entire box of NOS Autolite 66s. Russell somehow came to own multiple cases of these Autolite 66 plugs. He sent me this box to start, but apparently I'm going to end up with a whole lot more of these. I guess I'm never going to have to buy small block plugs again. Thank you, Russell. Don't you mind the surface rust, that's going to be fine. Notice these things actually shipped with the little tips off, so you could use them in small engines, and with the washer off, because there were applications back in the day, like the Slant 6 or the 426 Hemi, where you would not want that crush washer in place because they have a spark plug tube that acts as the seal. As nifty as that is, it does mean I need to assemble every single one of these. Plugs are in, wires are on. I want to crank the engine over and see what it sounds like. Now, I've discussed countless times in past videos that I don't just automatically do a compression test. Instead, I choose to use my ear because it's pretty easy to listen to an engine as it's cranking over and detect if there's a skip, a jump, a weak cylinder, or multiple weak cylinders. Unfortunately, there is a good chance I'm going to soak some of these plugs and lead to misfires when the thing does fire up. Hopefully that's not too big a deal. Yep. Okay, couple things. First, well, it doesn't sound all that even. It's kind of going up and down and up and down. And there was an obvious snapping noise to begin with, but it's since gone away. I believe that was a sticky valve. Okay, Yeah, it doesn't sound great. It is sounding better. I can hear a couple slightly weak holes. At this point, I think this engine is at least mechanically sound enough to bark off and make some engine noises. Before we try to do that though, I do need to get back to that whole draining the transmission thing. It would have been wise to drain this before ever turning the engine over because there is a possibility of some of this terrible watery stuff getting sent through the transmission. Of course, various commenters said any little bit of water in your transmission period means it's absolutely garbage, and well, they might be right, but we're gonna do our best here regardless. Step one. We're gonna need a lot of that. This 904 automatic had been freshly rebuilt. I don't know how many miles are on it, but it can't be very many. If it's dead, that would be unfortunate, but we'll be able to fix this car either way with the 3-pedal solution. I know a lot of people would want to see that. Wish I was filming the moment that popped loose. Yeah. Nice clear water, and then a bunch of pink fluid. Ugh. Ugh. This thing's full of yogurt. You always hear that water and oil don't mix. We in the automotive community know that to not be true. The unmixed water will always try to go to the bottom, so that's why we still have all of this. You're always going to have some wear material in the bottom of your transmission pan. This one was certainly no exception. Notice the horrible pink slime started turning nasty brown as I mixed that stuff up. Anyway, guess I'm going to have to clean this. Kind of feels like polishing the brass on the Titanic, but whatever. The word on the street is the slightest bit of water inside your automatic transmission will separate the friction material from the backing material on things like your bands and your clutches. In case it's not immediately obvious, that is bad. This thing having been full of water is a death sentence. I'm gonna put a fresh filter and fluid in there anyway. What I would like is to be able to move this car around the property, if it does in fact run. If it does work at first, there's a really good chance it won't work for long. We've experienced that here before. But I'm gonna take my chances. I bet you really good money there's a filter in this mess. If only I could find it. I found a starter in a box that's probably perfectly good. Half a dozen flex plates, factory 318LA camshaft, core plugs, good transmission mounts, spare rocker arms. No transmission filter. I know for a fact there's one in this mess somewhere, and I'm gonna find it the minute I get back from buying another one. I'm back with the filter in hand, and I'm just trying to get as much horribleness out as I can. It is impossible to remove all of it. Well, it can't be any worse. Now, if I was really good, I would have drained the transmission cooler and lines and also the torque converter. I can't do the torque converter because although it should have a drain plug, it's going to be blocked behind that B&M flex plate, and there's just no way to get to it. The cooler, I just can't be bothered. Noah told me that last time he tried to move this car because there was a flood coming, smoke came out of some of the electrical system, and he wasn't able to get it started. I've had this battery connected for like 2 hours now, and I haven't seen anything on fire, so that's the good news. Maybe that'll change when we actually try to start it. Speaking of which, it's finally almost time to do that. This is, of course, Type F transmission fluid. I always use Type F in these Chrysler transmissions. Something friction modifiers. Works really well. And now, of course, we need something flammable for the engine to run on. I'm gonna pour some gas down the breathers here to fill the bowls. And then we'll give it a healthy squirt down the primary throttles as well. Now, I know nothing about the condition of this carburetor, except that it was still seized yesterday. So this may not work all that well. I'm sure we'll all be shocked to learn the accelerator pump diaphragm's no good. It's soaking in fuel now, it could magically come back. You might have noticed the crap in this tailpipe here. Really good chance there's gonna be a bit of a show in this area if this car does fire up. Let's see what happens. Well, so far nothing. Oh, that's what the key does. That's cool. Okay. I certainly don't want to destroy my brand new starter or battery immediately. So I'm going to take a moment to reconsider some things. I'm going to make sure I'm getting spark to the end of these plug wires. And after that, I guess I'll pull all the plugs and find out they're probably all wet immediately. We know for a fact we're getting a spark from that coil. I even verified pulling the coil wire off and looking for a spark. Again, it is still doing that. But I don't think any spark is actually making it to the plugs. As you can see, I've installed an inline tester here. We can crank it over. We should see one zap every 2 rotations of the crankshaft. And I have not seen a 1. Cap and rotor issues are the only possibilities here. If there is a spark coming out of this coil, it's going somewhere, and that somewhere seems to not be our spark plugs. There's no evidence of moisture in here. Everything looks pretty good, but I'm going to throw a cap on it anyway. I found a blue one, so I clipped it on there and transferred all of the plug wires. Now, eagle-eyed viewers might be looking at these like I am and thinking, ugh, those can't be any good. They probably aren't, but it seems highly unlikely all 8 could be bad at once. We know the coil wire is good. There is evidence of corrosion in several of these towers, with the coil being one of them. Contact. Nope. Nope. Now contact. Maybe. Oh, I am the battery. I'm not hearing a test spark now. Oh. Found the smoke. It shouldn't surprise anyone that there's bad contact here. Okay. That's not great. Okay, so I think the module died. I cleaned and repacked this ground terminal, and now, occasionally, we get a test spark again. But then we don't. Remember that filter I couldn't find? Pretty sure there are 2 right here. I do have a couple different used modules around here that should work. Problem is, they're all 5-pin. This is the old factory style from when electronic ignition was first introduced. Admire the sticker. In later years, they switched to a 4-pin module. This dart is wired for a 4-pin. To make the 5-pin module work, you need the 4-post ballast resistor and an extra power wire going into this pin that was omitted on the later ones. It's been some time since my Dart Sport project was shipped home to its owner in California, but there are still leftovers from it here in a bucket that save my bacon from time to time. There's a good ignition box right there, but it too is a 5-pin. Aha! I remember there was one in this random box of crap from my old shop. It says test on it, so I guess we need to test it. Strangely, this one seems to be bad too. It's connected up. When I touch the terminal here, I don't know if you can hear it, but I can. There's a little zap. Like it's doing something, but we never get a spark, ever. No test spark, no cranking. The local parts house actually stocks an ignition module, but it's a 5-pin. I didn't know anyone sold 5-pins anymore. It's a while later, and things are getting fun. And by fun, I mean stupid. I was warned that the engine harness had been replaced. Ugh, what a horrible mess. This is the extra wire unused with a 4-pin module like this one. It is bundled in with the harness. It runs all the way over to roughly the area of the coil, and it's not connected to anything as well. It should not be. Okay. So after cutting a bunch of tape and heat shrink and all that, I did finally get it out of there. But that got me thinking, given that none of this wiring is factory, is it even right? Does it even work? What if it was actually our previously totally fine super strong Excel coil that died? Triggering it with the power probe, I'm occasionally getting a super weak spark, and that's it. All right, this is a weird one. As you can see on the power probe, which is currently plugged into the coil supply side of the resistor, which is a different resistor, I swapped it out just in case, we've got 11.8 volts. But when I trigger the coil with this button, which is connecting it to ground through that voltage drops down to below 5. Look at this cute little spark we get. Now, you know what? You can't even usually see one. Sometimes it happens, sometimes there's nothing. Now that was on the coil side of the resistor. This is the other side of the resistor, the feed side. Somehow it's being pulled down to 8 volts, which is insane. Note the red wire, this is a bypass straight to battery positive. We've now got 12.5 volts here. And when I trigger it, the voltage drops to 12.1, 12.2. Okay. Does we have sparkies? Well, I can hear them. I can't always see them. But yes. I hooked the Excel coil back up. It's still giving a very weak spark. That random factory one I stole from the 79 Power Wagon that's in pieces, it was slightly less weak, but I don't know if it's really any good either. Yet a third coil, a greasy old stock one. We have a reliable spark. It doesn't look as angry as the Excel coil spark looked at first, but it is consistent and the coloration is mostly fine. Well, that's doing stuff. That's also sometimes doing stuff. I wonder if the gap in there is messed up because I, bent it. All right, we've got all the spark in the world again, at least coming from the coil wire, so let's see if it does anything. All right. No. Okay, I still have the inline tester in there, and it is sparking. Here we go. I don't think this will come as a shock to anyone, but I am seeing some compression coming out of that valve cover. There's fire happening, kind of. It's just not enough to do anything. Maybe all the plugs are wet. That would be funny. I did find this random orange wire, which is connected to the starter relay and does this. So that's helpful. You can hear the occasional fart there. Pulling some plugs to look at them. Number 1 looks fine, really. Little moisture on there. Number 3, well, not so fine. Quick, easy way to tell if you've got way too much timing advance. See how it like stops turning? That's because it's firing prematurely and pushing back against the starter. This reminds me of a 61 Polara I tried to revive a long time ago. That one had been seized too, and I did get it turning, and it was obviously sparking and kind of sort of farting just like this. If you advance the timing too much, it would do what this does, but if you put it back where it should be happy, it would just never actually run. Well, I have a couple ideas. Here's one of them now. Quite some time ago now, I explained in a video the way I changed spark plug wires. It's the quick and easy way. You mark number 1 on the cap, and then as long as you have the firing order memorized, which is 1843657 just like, well, pretty much every other American V8. That is, except for the Ford ones. You just throw the wires away, and you start with 1 and go in that order. Obviously, I don't literally start with 1. I'm going from shortest wires to longest wires on this one. Just seemed like the thing to do. But because I know where 1 is, I can figure out every other position very easily. Show me fresh plug wires. Nope. What happened? Why you know? What? No change. We're running out of poop. I noticed a second ago as this thing was cranking slower and slower, sparks shooting out of this negative terminal. I kind of scrubbed it a little bit and tightened things up, but it hasn't helped much. Big money! Box is dead already. Tremendous. I'm going to replace that main ground cable. This will definitely make a big improvement. Probably need to put this body ground on a loop. Those can be good things to have. I put a bit of a charge on this battery while I was replacing the cable and terminating this. Again! Dude, it almost did something. I pulled all the easy to reach plugs back out. Number 8, very wet. Number 6 is actually a little sooty, so that might be our 1 good cylinder. Number 4, I don't know what's going on there. Number 2, it's almost sooty. I don't know, it doesn't really look like it's doing anything. You heard what this engine sounds like. Not the best. I decided to check some actual compression numbers. Here's number 1. Oh, stop. What? Why? Bad connection. Oh dear. Number 3 here, 25 PSI. That's not enough PSIs. Battery's back on the charger, jump box is slowly going dead. Obviously this thing's still bleeding off pressure, but anyway, this is number 6, the one that had obvious soot on the plug, like it had been doing something. 50 PSI there. 0 compression, absolutely no PSIs at all like we saw on number 1. Well, that's typically a valve issue, a stuck open valve, or worse. Low compression, that could be rings. To test for that, you add some oil to the cylinder and then test it again. When you crank the engine, that oil is going to find its way around the rings, plugging those air gaps up momentarily, and that should raise the compression number. Well, it went up. This thing is not turning nice. It's cranking so bad when it comes up on compression on this cylinder now, it just stops. But as you can see, compression went up by like 50% with the addition of that fluid. Now 75 PSI is still nowhere near enough PSIs, but it's something. I added Marvel to 6 out of 8 cylinders. This will do 2 things. The first is definitely get all the plugs wet. The second is possibly increase compression. Let's see what it sounds like. Do you see the mist coming out of the carburetor? So at least one intake valve is definitely an issue. Ooh. Ooh. Ah. That is something approaching combustion.
Live, damn you! Well, there's a bunch of smoke everywhere. That's something.
Well, the good news is, dumping all that oil in there, I have now disproved my other possible idea, which is that the exhaust could be clogged solid. As you probably saw in that shot, little bits of debris are coming out, and there was also some smoke, so that's good. What you couldn't see from that angle is smoke just chooching out of the carburetor.
Yeah. So a good bit of that is what should be propelling this engine to rotate under its own power and do internal combustioning, but it's being wasted around intake valves. You know, I've gone through like an entire one of these at this point, trying to get this thing to fire. I mean, it sounds late, but advanced from there, it wasn't really doing anything. So we have two good cylinders for sure. You can hear it going kick, 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 kick. And they're still weak, like it's not enough to keep it spinning, but it's something. How hot should the starter be? Just wondering. We gotta give this thing a rest.
I'm sure it's obvious that the addition of the Marvel Mystery Oil to the cylinders raised the compression to the point that some of these cylinders started firing that previously weren't. Obviously, we're still getting tons and tons of smoke out the carburetor. A little bit less now. Lots out of the valve cover, and we're probably always gonna have that because rusted rings. Horrible nightmare. Anyway, if the stars align, just maybe, with a fresh battery and dried plugs, it'll do something. For science, I touched all of the header primary tubes here on the driver's side. Only number 7 is warm. Strangely, none of them feel warm on the passenger side. No giant mystery there. I'm not touching the 5 and 7 plugs. Those ones are like impossible, and it's just not worth it. I've learned over the years that my beloved cheapo Champion spark plugs don't necessarily love to get wet. They tend to just die completely and not come back to life after that. I don't know that Autolite plugs share the same characteristic, but I'm putting my best foot forward here. I threw another set of clean plugs in there. If it's gonna fire up, it's pretty much now or never. I allegedly borrowed a battery with some life in it. Here's to hoping. I need more hands.
This is so close to actual running engine stuff. Aha! Okay.
None of the pipes feel warm over here. The head is warm. See that white spot? Here's the driver's side. And, oh, that's the starter. Yeah, there's a bit of heat in the head, but not much. Did you know that I have a long and proud traditional history of ruining starters? Someone needs to invent a water-cooled Mopar starter. Just for me. It's raining awful. No. I don't want that on me. You know, I have abused some starters in my time, but never have I elicited that smell from a brand new one. Well, okay, maybe once.
The hour is quickly drawing late, but I'm feeling lucky, and I got some mixed gas. Whee! Oh. Why do I keep getting covered in gasoline today? Big money. That money is not big enough. Back to the other battery. Perhaps it's got enough juice now. Maybe just a smidge more. Sounds late. Yes! That was life. It didn't sound good, and a billow of dust everywhere. Really? So that's it? Okay.
Obviously, hand priming this thing repeatedly is not getting me very far, so I put my beloved Atwood boat tank on the roof, and I filled the bowls with the hand bulb primer thing. It seems to be holding pressure. The floats seem to actually work. Still don't think we have any pump action or anything like that. And there's no question this carburetor is total garbage, but hopefully it'll kind of sort of do something. Decided to try and blow out the idle circuits real quick. That was a mistake. Wow.
I don't know about you, but I'm really bored of this thing not running. Why are you like you are? It'll like kind of sort of fire a few times and that's it. Okay, that was something. So much blow by. Those bowls are still full, so I don't know if anything's actually coming out of them through any circuits. But it'll run on this. Okay, well, that is a running engine. And it is quite apparent at this point that this carburetor is not happy at all. It's probably clogged full of nightmares. That shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. I could do one of two things now. Well, three things. I could give up. I could go find a known good carburetor, except I don't own any of those. Or I could open this up and try and make it less bad.
There's already a bit of heat in this hose, which tells me there's still enough coolant in this thing to circulate, and that water pump actually kind of works. Number 4 and number 6, definitely firing. Number 8, not so much. Number 2, no. 1, certainly not. 3, don't think so. 5, maybe? It's kind of warm. Number 7, definitely. So that might have been 3 cylinders. Pulling the fuel drop rods and pistons out, they are stuck. The passenger side did come out. It looks like this. Lovely. The spring is currently in one of the primary bores. Got it out, but it's gone forever now. That was too easy. Oh, gotta get the gasket off the body. It needs to come off on the lid to survive. Oh dear. Oh dear, some more. Okay. Got my work cut out for me. So first off, the accelerator pump diaphragm is actually still squishy, but the spring's rusted off of there, so this wasn't ever gonna do anything. Second, the right side, well, actually it's left side, driver's side float is moving, and the needle and seat moves too. Passenger side, not so much, totally seized, and the needle is stuck in that seat. So when it was holding pressure, the primer bulb was, that is, it's because that wasn't open at all. There is fuel in there, but that's because I pre-filled the bowl. I don't know that any fuel was getting over here either, so maybe the needles and seats are all just clogged. Oh, this is awful. Scraping little bits of rusted baffle out of here. Maybe the shop vac will explode. Oh, I need a hose. Dang it. Well, we might get somewhere with this. That ain't good. No. Mistake. Just get it over with. Okay, the carb stuff was one thing, but then I accidentally blew air down here in a puddle of mud. Some of that's on my face. Oh, it's better, but it sure ain't good. An accelerator pump is not gonna be a thing. I can't get this out. This screw is stripping, and I'm just not willing to fight this all night. It's a bit later, and everything still looks mostly like garbage, despite having been kind of cleaned, but both floats move, both needles seal and unseal, and I feel good about it. Lid's back on. Priming with the thing. Okay, it's holding pressure and it definitely took fuel. I've gone for pink springs. This actually works now, that's good.
It smells like dinner out there. It's not fair. What a horrible mess. How did I already run this out again? Hopefully it pulls fuel and does what it's supposed to. No. So much hate. Most of the action and the smoke is over here. Smells okay. Yeah, we've got some combustion on this side. Did you see the clouds of rusty horror coming out of the left side pipe? Truly amazing. We continue to not have 2 or 8. But 4 and 6 are doing stuff. 1 has come back to us. 3, not so much. 5, don't think so. And number 7 is solid. To try and figure out if there's some sort of ignition issue here, I decided to chart the cylinders and mark the ones that are firing. 1, 4, 6, and 7 are alive. 8, 3, 5, and 2, not so much. What kind of issue could lead to every other plug firing? If we had, say, 2 dead ones on one side, that could imply a cap issue. It could imply a firing order goof up if it was 2 next to each other, but we don't have any of that. The 2 next to each other could be explained by a blown head gasket, and I was smelling that from this cooling system, so it's certainly possible. Well, okay, number 2 actually is doing something, judging by the fact that it's warm, and that pipe is a little warm too. It's just nothing compared to these. Let's check compression on number 2. Okay, it's not great, but I'm seeing 90. Here's a plug out of one of our happy ones, number 4. It's very toasty, and the color is like perfect. It's got that kind of burnt orange thing going on. Compression check on cylinder 4. All right, so 125. That's not an amazing screaming horsepower engine number, but it's good. Decided to pull the transmission dipstick. There's something I didn't want to know. Yeah, there's a bunch of water mixing with that fluid. Engine oil? Not faring much better. Wondering if the key situation has improved. Not really. I'm sure it's low voltage coming into the ignition switch or out of it. I should hope it's obvious at this point that the electrical system in this car is going to need a total rethink. That's not a today problem. Haha! Self-fixing dart. I don't really want to put good antifreeze in this thing, but I also don't want to overheat it. I want to keep it running for a bit and see if any more of these cylinders come back to the table. I did think of something else though. This is a dual plane manifold. Half of the engine runs on one side of the carb, half of it runs on the other. Guess which 4 cylinders are together? 2, 8, 3, and 5. And then 1 and 7, and 4 and 6. So maybe that side of the carburetor just isn't fueling at all. Anyway, I added some green stuff. We should be safe. Let's see how my random timing stab ended up. Too much. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I have an idea for a test. I'm gonna put fuel in this side, or is it this side? Nope. Wait, I don't actually know. Well, okay.
let's say inconclusive. It's just stuck in eco mode. Well, something improved because all of a sudden it was idling massively high. Okay. This is kind of starting to sound like something. It's starting to sound kind of good. More chunks. Lean popped at me and I peed a little. Other than that, this thing sounds amazing. We're getting new smoke over here. Number 2 is happening. 4 and 6, beautiful. Number 8's online. Number 1's looking weak. Number 3 is fully at the party. Number 5, also kind of doing stuff. And we know number 7's good. I almost gave up on this thing 2 hours ago. I did not think this was gonna happen. But here we are. It's already circulating coolant. I know it's fully irrational, but I love this car. I'm excited. I'm also disgusting. As I've mentioned, this 904 automatic transmission's days are surely numbered, if it has any left at all. So we might as well get it while the getting's good. I'm gonna fire it up again, drop it in gear, and we'll see if I can just casually drive the Swinger out of the shop. That's not going anywhere. Much better. It died. Also, I don't know if I can actually shut the hood. Taillight died again. Funny, the throttle's sticky. It's the actual throttle mechanism inside. It's all rusty and terrible. Needs more headlight. There are certainly some burning smells, but this is going remarkably well. Oh. What did I just say? Something about things going well? Mother of God. How? Why? It's just like spouting out of that corner of the oil pan. I have never seen such a thing. That ain't good, brother. It's called problem solving. I think it needs a headlight switch, also a dimmer switch, also pretty much everything else. Well, you know what we gotta do now. Forgot about the sticky throttle. So glorious. Fixed. Also, it smells like exhaust. Fully blind. You can see way better in the phone than in real life. Brakes? Oh yeah, there's the warning light again. Okay, well, at least it has some number of brake. If the shuttle valve wasn't moving to close off the one because of a pressure differential, the light wouldn't work. No wipers, in case you were wondering. But the blower motor makes that horrible noise still. The tires aren't round. Shocking, I know. Best job ever, dude. I just love it. Okay, we gotta get back. Oh god. Transmission barely works. Might be some happy rainbows. Like a lot of really happy rainbows. Did I mention I'm blind? I can't see my driveway. Oh, there's a truck frame right here. Don't hit that. Success was absolutely not guaranteed here. And I'm serious, like, I was ready to give up. I didn't think it was ever gonna go. I guess that should teach us all a lesson about perseverance or something. Come on. Something's on fire. Is that gas? Not gas. Oil? Okay. Okay. Stop being on fire, please. Yes. Maybe. Mostly. Well, that's a DDG first. I've never lit anything on fire before. Well, I mean, there have been incidents, but whatever. That is transmission fluid that was pouring out of the dipstick. And obviously it blew straight down on the header and became engulfed. As I believe David Freiberger said once, transmission fluid burns good. What a horrible mess. Now, in case you've never seen this before, transmission fluid blowing out of the dipstick tube like that is a sure sign that your transmission's cooked. And again, like, we knew this. This is why we always keep fire aid on hand, because it aids the fire. Also remind me to buy more of this stuff. Okay, I really need it to not be there. I'm gonna see if I can limp it over here. Don't catch on fire, don't catch on fire. Please don't catch on fire. No, I just lost my headlights. It's actually running on the key now, so I can just shut it off. That's a big improvement. Come on, go, yes. Remember when I could almost see? Don't hit the thing. Sure. Not on fire. Nice. It runs. It actually kind of drove. It did not burn to the ground. I'm calling this a giant win. Now, as you must know if you watch this channel regularly, I am very busy, and I'm not promising that this is going to happen anytime soon, but in this shop, I have almost everything I would need to put a 4-speed in that Dart, and I really want to do that. There are several more pressing matters to deal with first. Like more than several, actually. Obviously, billowing blow-by smoke and pouring oil everywhere is not good. We can't really daily drive this thing reliably like that. So I suspect we are going to have to get into this 360. But all of this is very encouraging. We know we have something workable now, and that's great. Good times. I guess that's all I have to say about that. So if you'll excuse me, I need to go clean up a mild ecological disaster. I do hope you enjoyed this one. I certainly did. It's the stuff my dreams are made of. I'll see you next time. Until then, as ever, thanks for watching. And remember, I'm not spilling oil. I'm making happy little rainbows. Compared to the Stone Soup bloodbath, that was nothing. Oh wait, one more thing. We gotta make it official. Oh yeah, buddy. It qualifies.